So lovely to see everyone today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Localgiving's latest webinar. The webinar today covers an introduction to online fundraising. So it's really some really tangible examples of the different ways that you can fundraise through local giving, and then a lot of advice in how you can do that successfully, how you can attract new audiences, and the different ways that we can support you to raise money for your organisation, both through fundraising and through grants and through some exciting technology developments that are coming through as well. So some new bits that we'll be sharing with you today. So I myself am Localgiving's regional programs manager. Historically, I've worked for Localgiving for 7 years, specifically helping organisations in Wales. That has been working with any not-for-profits, so both registered charities, CICs, anybody in the charity sector who wants to look at online fundraising. I've very much worked with organisations that have done online fundraising before, and organisations that it's the first time they're looking at it, or they've just taken over from a fellow volunteer, a whole mix of things. And this has all very much contributed to the training session that we'll cover today as well. So we're going to look at what is local giving. Some of you might have been members with local giving for a while, or you might have had a grant with us, but have never done any fundraising through us. Or maybe you've recently taken over from someone. Wherever you're at, hopefully this will give you some ideas of how you can go away and start fundraising. And hopefully also inspire you that it's an easy way to ask for support. And if you do ask for support, you really do see a response. And it's wonderful always to see so many members so pleasantly surprised by, if they do ask, they do get as well. So we'll be looking at how you can do that and how you can do it effectively. We'll completely cover what is online fundraising, how to share about your work and your cause, how to run a successful crowdfunding appeal, and our changes that we've done as local giving around appeals as well. And we don't even really call them appeals anymore, so we'll come on to that as well. Engaging fundraisers to fundraise on behalf of your cause, and also then looking at some extra bits such as monthly direct debit donors, and just generally how to start as well. Fab. So what is local giving? So we ourselves are a membership-based organisation. We are really focused on helping community-level organisations to access money to support the really good work that they're doing. And we do that in a number of ways. So we run an online fundraising platform. And by that, I mean we give people the means to have donations and to have fundraising support through the internet. So we make it as easy and as accessible as possible for people to support you wherever you are, wherever they are, whatever amount works for them. And we also run a number of grant programs alongside that. So we really work with two groups of people, and they are members who are helping to fundraise, and grantees who are supporting with grants. And in the best relationship is when those two cross over, and we're working with people both for grants and for fundraising. With the grants now, we have different grants that are live throughout the year that people can apply for, and I'll be talking in detail about the one that is live at the moment. And those grants are generally of different sizes, but they're available to both those who are registered charities and other not-for-profits as well. So it's really relevant to everyone. They're typically themed grants, so we'll be going through that as well. But in terms of the fundraising, the main benefits of fundraising through local giving, which we'll cover in detail, but one significant benefit I just wanted to say from the off is that we're able to give all of our members gift aid. So whether you're a registered charity or any other form of not-for-profit, you can get gift aid. So those who are CICs, who've never had gift aid before, can have that extra benefit then, and be receiving that income support that perhaps you've never received before as well. And that's something that we're able to ensure that all of our members do benefit from. So what is online fundraising and crowdfunding? So those terms really refer to any activity where donations are collected digitally, which we mean via the internet. So anything that is online and coming through to your bank account, that really is covered under online fundraising. Obviously, it's really easy for people to support you wherever they're based, and it's a really quick and easy way for you to get the money directly as well. The average online donation is double that of an offline donation. So it's really important that you're looking for this form of income. Obviously, COVID changed everything on that front, and people were very much forced into online fundraising if they weren't already. And those that were already established with online fundraising were a step ahead in terms of being able to get continued support for their work, and they really thrived in having that foundation of having a donation page and things like that to get people support straight to them. Those of you who are Localgiving members already and have been for a little while, you might have noticed that our charity pages have changed recently and seen detail about that in our newsletter. So on the right here is an example of what a charity donation page looks like at the moment. And the first thing that people do when they become a member of Localgiving is populate one of these pages. It's really simple. It's really easy. It's simpler than making a Facebook page. And essentially that summarizes your work as a whole. So you're saying who your group are, how you've come about, and hopefully having some visual examples and pictures there as well. They always include an option to add some donation examples and be able to say to people, you know, £5 will enable you to support us in this way, you know, £20 covers this, so you can make it as tangible as possible for donors. And I'll be showing you some live examples of those in a minute as well. But essentially everyone has this donation page and it is live throughout your Localgiving membership. On top of that, you can then also create a number of other pages that specifically help you to raise money for a particular need, which you'll be going over, and we call that crowdfunding. So when you've got a specific need, I'll show you here, you know, you need to raise £5,000 towards a particular project, or you need to raise £7,000 to keep some existing work going, or to cover your bills over the winter, or to get your sports team to a particular event. Whatever it is, something you can put a particular financial figure against works really well for a crowdfunder. And a crowdfunder is called lots of different things across different platforms. So a crowdfunding page, an appeal page, we've just changed to calling it a fundraising page. All of those things refer to you as an organization raising money yourselves towards a particular need that you have. Our fundraising pages look like this, and the main difference really is that you've got a target bar there of the specific amount that you're trying to raise and the detail that you've added of what it is that that project covers. So every organization has the ability as part of the membership to make these fundraising pages, and you might have one, you might have a couple. Some organizations do a few throughout the year. If everyone's able to mute themselves, that'd be great. That'd be really helpful. And they really help you do really focused fundraising alongside that general page as a whole, which talks about your ongoing work. So by crowdfunding, that typically refers to lots of people giving small amounts towards a specific target. So the whole aim of that sort of fundraising is that you're reaching out to large numbers of people and asking for any amount in clever ways that we'll talk about, that collectively you can raise a bigger target together. So we've got fundraising pages, but we've also got fundraiser pages. And the main difference with that is that you as an organization can be fundraising, or you can invite others to fundraise on your behalf and create a fundraiser page. So they're becoming a fundraiser. They are choosing their own target, or you could recommend them a target of what they should raise towards your cause, and they're then typically taking on a challenge then to raise that income. So quite often you see fundraisers on a number of different platforms. Someone's either come up with an idea of something that they can do to challenge themselves, or they they're taking part in an existing event. We'll properly look at different examples and what you can encourage as well in a minute. There we go. So when you log into Localgiving, this is what it looks like. And I'm just going to go through these couple of steps before I then show you what those real pages look like, so you can see. So this is a member's account. So you can log into Localgiving, and in this My Pages section, you can create any of those pages. So you can create your fundraiser page as an organization. You can edit and update your main page to talk about your organization and where it's at. And all those pages link together really nicely, which I'll show you a live example of. Every donation that comes through to those pages is listed here as well, so you can really easily see everything, as do direct debits. The easiest thing is if whoever manages the finance, or a trustee who is a treasurer or something like that, they can have their own login and they can easily then see the income that you have coming in. They can run off their own reports as well and compare it against monthly bank statements. It's really easy for them to see the income that you have coming in from local giving. You can see anyone who's doing fundraisers for you, and you can also apply for grants centrally there as well. There's also a toolkit there too. This is an example of one of the things that's in the toolkit, but there's everything there from donation buttons for you to add to websites, to example social media things, to fundraising guides. And there's also what we call our welcome pack, which really takes you through all the stages. A lot of it I'm covering in this webinar, but that's something tangible if you want to go through it at your own pace, that we'd really encourage you to look at. So it's called the welcome pack in your toolkit there. And in that grant section, any grants that we have live at the moment will be listed there. So it's really easy just to log in, to apply, and then take it from there. And you can see, you can view your applications, you can see what stage your application's at, you can see the outcome of your application all in that section. So it's really nice and easy there as well. So I'm going to pause there and just show you some examples of real donation pages. So I've got 3 different levels. So this is a smaller amount first I just wanted to talk to you about. This group has done a lot of fundraising actually in previous years, but this year, this is an example of a smaller amount. As you can see, they've really focused on having a lot of donors. So they've had a lot of people give smaller amounts, and that's how they reach the community. And we'll talk about that more as well in general. But just an example, they've given some really tangible ideas of what different donation amounts equate to. For example, £40 covers a month's worth of food parcels for larger families. So it really gives donors an idea of what their money is going towards. They've then done a good job of populating their page with images and examples as well. So this is their page as a whole that talks about their ongoing work and summarizes it as well. And then they've also got their own let me just show you here. They've also got their own appeal page as well running at the moment. So they've exceeded their target. They have been trying to run a particular pantry in a particular community. And so that is their fundraising that they're doing alongside their main page there as well. So as you can see, it's a standalone page. It's got its own link for you to share to people, but it is really easy to move between the different pages as well. On the larger end of things, here's an example football club. So again, football clubs, typically most sports clubs aren't registered charities. They're community groups, and they have never had access to gift aid before. So that's an example of an organisation that has very much had access to gift aid for the first time through local giving. This is their main page then that summarises what they've done. They've really, really been pushing on the fundraiser front. As you'll see here, they've got 24 different fundraisers and crowdfunders going at the moment. This is an example of one that they're running themselves. So they're trying to fund their ladies and girls rugby teams at the moment, of all ages. And so they're trying to raise a specific amount of money towards that themselves. But as you can see, they also have lots of different people taking on physical challenges, people doing cycle rides, all sorts of things to try and raise money. They can either be raising money towards this same target too. You can connect different pages and they can collectively raise money towards the fundraising target that you as an organization are trying to meet, or they can be standalone fundraiser pages and just hitting their own target independently themselves. And we'll look at how you can encourage fundraisers in that way as well. So that is an example of a larger one. And I'll come back to the medium one in a little bit. There we go. So there we go. So this is actually a good example of an in-between one. So Hannah's Holiday Home Appeal. So this is the central donation page as well. It's an organisation that supports children with cancer and their families and provides them with free holidays as they're going through that very difficult time. So again, their main donation page gives examples of how that works, but they've also got some really nice fundraisers happening on their behalf at the moment, and they've also got their own fundraising challenge as well. So there's lots of different things going on by different organizations there, but you equally could have and be encouraging support in those ways. So obviously you can have made a really good donation page, and the aim is to make it as strong as possible. We have a number of tools that are coming your way to make those donation pages really strong. But in the meantime, and in general, this is what we'd encourage to make your message as clear and as strong as possible. So when you're talking about your work, you're really telling the story of your organization. It's really worthwhile to think about, what are the circumstances that prompted your organization to be in existence? What is the purpose of the work you do? How does your work suit that purpose or solve that problem? What is it that you do to help, and what does the situation really look like as a result of your work? So what are the outcomes? The strongest pages always have quotes or testimonies or case studies and examples of what your work has achieved for people as well. So that's the sort of story that you should be communicating. Once you've got that message exactly how you like it, it's then worth thinking about who are your network, because the message that you then communicate to different people might vary slightly depending on who they are and what their means are and what their relationship with you as an organization is. So you might have your story of your organization as a whole, but then your action, your call to action might vary then as depending on who you're talking with. So for example, these are all networks that you all have. You all have people who've interacted with the organization in one way or another. They might be service users, they might be staff or volunteers, and they might be family members of those who have benefited from your work. Different people in that network are going to be better suited to different messages. So some people, obviously, it's entirely appropriate to say, will you donate to us? Or other people might have been with you on the journey for a really long time, and the best message is actually going to be to ask them to support you monthly. Or others, that it's not financially appropriate to ask them to give donations. Maybe it's a group of refugees or someone like that, and their financial means are, really limited, and that's the nature of your support with them. But perhaps they'd be really up for doing a fundraiser, you're working with a group of young carers, and they collectively might want to do a fundraising challenge as a group. There's lots of different ways that people can support you that aren't just donations as well. And if it's not appropriate or people aren't able to do any of those things, you've absolutely got to ask them to be sharing your donation pages or sharing your fundraising focus at that time, and ask them to share it with your friends or to volunteer for you. And that's just something that's invaluable if they can really help you spread the word. You need to be as clear on your ask as possible, and ideally make it as personable to the donor as possible. So really make them feel like they're the person that causing this good outcome as a result. So rather than just being with your donation we've gone off and done this, instead it's very personal. It's because of you this person is living in this way, and it's very much you as an individual that are the hero that have helped the organization. So that's what you need to be thinking about when you're planning your wording and things like that. And then as you start to communicate that message, obviously, there are a number of ways to communicate. Social media, which we'll look at a little bit more in a minute, but it's really important. Social media is visual. So if you can have images and things like that, then that's really important. You can also use something like Canva. So for example, say you are a domestic abuse charity and you don't have photos of your work to be sharing, it's not appropriate. And something like Canva can help you create really visual images that you can be sharing on social media, things like that. So that there are lots of ways that you can make sure your work is visual, even if you don't have access to photos or videos. Traditional media as well. So many groups really benefit from local press or radio stations, and really communicating the message in traditional ways like that. There are a number of case studies I'll go through in a minute. And newsletters. Newsletters are so important. And really by that, I mean communication that comes through in an email. So 1/3 of digital income is from an email, and that would typically be a newsletter. Now you can just write an email, but there are so many free newsletter platforms out there. It's definitely worth you looking at that. It doesn't have to be a weekly newsletter or a monthly newsletter. If even a quarterly newsletter, just letting people know what you're up to, what financially you need at the moment, how previous support has enabled you to grow, all of those sorts of things can just be really useful. So I really want to talk to you about running a successful crowdfunding appeal. So as I said, we now call that fundraising pages. So you as an organization are fundraising, aiming to get a large number of donations from donors, not necessarily each donation being a large donation, just a large quantity of support that really adds together, and you're appealing to that crowd to support you, and the fundraising page then collects all of those donations, as it were. So appeals and crowdfunders and fundraising pages really fall into two categories. You have reactive and you have proactive. So reactive fundraising refers to something that's happened that you are fundraising off of the back of. So that might be a crisis. That might be, the roof's collapse. It might be there's a particular need in our community. It might be there's just been a world event that's happened. The example here is there was a community gas explosion. There were a number of people whose homes were destroyed or who were out of their homes for a large amount of time. And the community really gathered together. They exceeded their target. The organisation that was fundraising on behalf of the community had never fundraised before. We helped them get their donation page up and running within 24 hours and really helped them with promoting that as well. So that would be a reactive appeal that's responsive to something that's happening. What most people will be doing is proactive fundraising. So you'll really be thinking about in advance, right, what do we need to fundraise for across the year? We're short in that pot. We'd really like to do a project here. Our community really needs this. Whatever it is, it's a proactive appeal where you're looking at what you want to do and how you're going to get there, and you're planning the focuses along the way. So, for example, this organisation, it was a friends organisation of a community park. They had never done fundraising before online. They weren't comfortable with anything online, really. They had a basic Facebook page that they did some updates on, and that was it. So we really supported them. It was part of a Wales program that we had running at the time, where we were able to meet them face to face. So I myself met them face to face a number of times to help them get started with this. And they then created a really good video that showed the part of the park that they wanted to develop into a new garden. They then really looked at the communication methods that would work for their audience. So they knew that their audience and support network were older as well. And so online communication wasn't the sole thing that they should be focusing on. And so we helped them plan to communicate through things such as posters around the park, speaking to businesses around the perimeter of the park who would benefit from their new garden. They had promotional materials around to the houses surrounding the park. They had a charity shop, and so they put things in the gift bags. They put banners around the park, all sorts of things. They got in touch with local newspapers. Their local councillor promoted it for them. So lots of traditional methods, and that worked really well for them. And they absolutely smashed their target. Their first appeal ever raised over £4,000, and they also received a lot of offline donations as well. They received a lot of checks in the post and things like that alongside it, which also helped them towards their target. And they'd never asked for support in this way before, and so therefore to get it as soon as they asked, obviously they're absolutely thrilled. And a group like that can then go from strength to strength in their fundraising, because you've done it once, and you can prove to all of the other trustees, volunteers, colleagues, whatever it is, that this is well worth it as well. And so it's a really good test of asking for support. When you are thinking about doing an appeal, and I'm talking about a proactive appeal, and you're thinking about fundraising and trying to ensure that fundraising is as successful as possible, the main question we often get asked is, what's the best appeal target to set? My advice would be to do your first target as somewhere between £500 and £5,000. And the reason for that really is that you really want it to be worth your time. So it's worth setting a target of £500. You will hit that target. So, don't be put off by that. And I'll talk about ways that you can make that as strong as possible. And it's worth not doing more than £5,000 for your first appeal, because when you're fundraising in that way for the first time, you don't know what the norms are for your organization. So, for example, your first fundraising is going to teach you what's the average donation that you're going to receive, how many donors are generally supporting you, which communication methods are working best for you. And then, so for example, say you put a £20,000 target and then your average donation ends up being quite small, that it means you have to reach a huge amount of people. And so setting that smaller target to start with can ensure that your appeal is as strong as possible, and that the target is realistic to your network as well. And when you're setting that target, it's really important. Obviously, you need to know what needs to be funded. It needs to fund it. How much have you raised in the past? Have you had other funding in from grants and things like that? Are there fundraisers that can link into it? And one of the main things I wanted to share is what I would call the 30% rule. And that is that if you pretty much raise the first third of your target, you're likely to get the whole way. So raising that first third is really, really important. And one of the reasons for that is that if I'm someone who's not supported you before, and I go onto your page and I see your target and you've raised 2% of your target, you've done the hard work getting me to that page, but perhaps then I'm not going to follow through and actually donate. Whereas if I go onto that donation page and, you've raised £1,000 towards £3,000 target, then there's nothing there that's going to be putting me off in donating. So as soon as you can get to that third point, that's kind of raise the third 30% point, it's really, really encouraging to your supporters then. And there are two main ways really that you can get to that. I suppose three. So obviously you can just do really good promotion and you're just getting there and you're being really successful. But there are two ways that you can really help yourself look as strong as possible. One of those is that if you've had a grant towards the same amount already, or you've had some income or fundraising towards the same project already, you can instantly list that as an offline donation. So say you're doing a 20 grand project and you've had £15,000 worth of grants, you can list them as offline donations, or you've had, a £10,000 lottery grant, whatever it might be, you can list that as an offline donation towards your target. So that instantly will put you off of that £0 mark. What we really encourage people to do, though, is something called a soft launch. So if you, as an organization, you've made your donation page live, and then you're messaging those in your network who are closest to you, so those who supported before, volunteers, staff, people who are involved in your services, and you're saying to them, look, our donation page is now live. Next week, I'm going to start sharing it more widely on social media and things like that. In the meantime, if you were considering supporting us, if you could donate this week, it would make it such a strong case for those new donors, because together we can be raising our first few hundred quid. We can get it off the ground. No new donor is ever going to go to that page and see £0 raised, and it's almost like you're sharing with them conversationally, and making clear that your close relationship with them, that they're almost in the know and can help you get off the ground and get off that £0 mark. Hopefully you've raised that first bit of money. If they were going to support you anyway, they've done it early on, and it's really encouraging to new donors once you start supporting it. So we call it a soft launch because the donation page is live, but you've not started widely promoting it yet there as well. It's really worth thinking about how other forms of fundraising fit in. So I've talked about how grants might fit in, but your fundraising can actually also support grants. So say you've just done a fundraising page and it's raised a certain amount towards your work. In your grant applications that are towards the same project, you can be saying, look, we've just raised £6,000, say, from the local community. this really shows that they really value the work. They really, they've invested their own money in it. They can completely see the need. There is a need for it. And now we're looking for a grant for the remaining amount that's needed to complete the project. So in that sense, your online fundraising can benefit your grant fundraising as well, because that's showing that you're a really good organization with sustainable, diversified income, that you're putting a lot of effort in, that there is a need and the community's behind you. All of those things go a really long way with grant makers as well. As I mentioned, fundraiser pages, so individuals doing fundraising challenges, raising their own money, they can be linked to your fundraising pages as well. And so collectively, every time they raise £10, £10 is going against your central target as well. And you're building that up together as well. And then corporate fundraising as well. We have a number of organizations who you might have something like a charity of the year relationship with a business, or just a business doing a one-off fundraiser for you, and they themselves say they're doing staff fundraisers throughout the year and adding it into the pot, you know, every time there's cake sales or, you know, dress up days, whatever it is they happen to be doing, every time a colleague is taking part in something like that, they are donating through the one online fundraising page there as well. And it's going towards your targets. There's different ways that other forms of fundraising can fit in with you there as well. Just to talk about some examples. So this is an organisation. They essentially operate as a community centre. It's in one of the most deprived communities in all of Wales. You know, to the level that is comparable with Eastern Europe and things like that. They had a community centre. It was very founded in the community. Everything they were doing very much involved the community. They had some great projects, but they never asked for individuals to support them before. They were nervous about asking. They weren't sure if the support would be there. They weren't sure if it would feel right that they were asking. And so we were working with them then to help them come up with some really tangible community-focused appeals and fundraisers to get them off the ground then too. So, for example, they did fundraising pages where they raised money for a defibrillator, obviously a really tangible output, really clear benefit for the community. They did fundraising pages for prom dresses to support those who wouldn't be able to afford to go to prom. They did fuel poverty support for the community. They ran COVID specific appeals for food parcels and running a mental health support line and financial crisis support and things like that as well. So they really focused on fundraising pages that were really clear outputs for the community. And in that sense, they completely felt validated in asking the community if they were able to support them, because the benefit was both immediate to the community and just very, very clear. And the amount of support that they'd raised then enabled them to invest in a part-time fundraising post as well, because they didn't have a fundraiser before that. And then a staff member is then able to put even more time into fundraising, and they raise even more. So that's one example of an organisation who's really, really grown from online fundraising. I should just say that these examples, that some of them are screenshots from before our fundraising page has changed and updated, but I wanted to keep them in because they're just really good examples still as well. So they do look a little bit different to the pages that I showed you earlier. So if you are planning on fundraising in this way, if you as an organisation are wanting to hit particular targets, you know, you need to be really resilient. You need to remember that each donation is, you know, a huge achievement, and very much treat each crowdfunder as an experiment. You know, you'll learn more and more as it goes. You'll be testing what works. You'll be providing evidence to colleagues and fellow volunteers and things like that, in terms of, you know, look, if we ask, we do get. And, you know, sometimes campaigns will fail. There might be a particular time of year that doesn't work so well for you. We really, really encourage organisations to run fundraising pages in the autumn in particular. People are most generous in the autumn, in the lead up to Christmas. So it's well worth, it's the perfect time of year now to be starting to think about what you might want to fundraise come September or October. You could be running that page then for up to 3 months. So I'd encourage you to be running that fundraising page for a minimum of a month, no longer than 3 months, because you don't want to lose momentum, but you want to give yourself time to have reached everyone as well. And so, yeah, this is now the perfect time of year to be planning ahead to that autumn time. You will get better and better, and the more data you receive along the way, the more, so for example, every donor that supports you can choose to be anonymous, or they can choose to just share their contact details with you, or their full name and contact details. And so whatever they've chosen, you don't have to worry about GDPR, because whatever the donor has chosen, that's what you'll see. You won't accidentally see contact details that people don't want you to talk to them on. All of our site is completely taking that into account. So you are going to be receiving more and more email addresses as you go as well. You're going to have people sign up to newsletters as you go. Every time you do this, you're going to have more and more people to communicate with as well. And yeah, online fundraising shouldn't just be the responsibility of one person. It's collectively in your organization. If you're planning this fundraising page, you really should be thinking, right, okay, well, that person's the person who's going to be spreading the word. This person's got an event coming up where they can share it verbally. Everyone within the organization should play a part as well there. So you've got those fundraising pages that you as an organization are planning, succeeding at, gathering income through, hopefully this autumn, if you can be brilliantly proactive in planning that. But you also have then fundraiser pages, so individuals fundraising on your behalf as well. The summer months are obviously really good times for people to do fundraisers because the weather's great. There are a lot of existing runs and things like that happen around October time. So there's lots of different things at the moment that it's worth asking people to think about fundraising for. When you ask someone whether they'd like to do a fundraiser for you, there are three main ways that they can support you. One of those is existing third-party events. So all of the runs, the triathlons, all those sorts of things that we hear about, they can sign up to an event that someone else has organised. They've got their place. They're setting their own target and fundraising against that. They've paid for it themselves. They're fundraising around that particular date. So that's one type of fundraising. Another is a supporter-led event. So that might be them as an individual coming up with their own idea, their own challenge that suits them, and they're very much planning it themselves. They maybe are trying to swim the length of the English Channel in their local pool, or they are I've got some examples coming up in a minute, but that they are coming up with their own idea that's personal to them, of interest to them, and that idea has come from themselves. And the third option is that the idea has come from you. So you could be organising your own fundraising event. People could be taking part in that. And I've got some examples for that as well. So for example, you have arranged a cycling event and then different people are signing up to it and you're doing it collectively as an organisation. It's you that's done that off your own back. So you can do things like that as well. It's always worth thinking ahead on things like that, whether you need to get insurance and things like that too. So there's other elements if you start arranging things like that. Or you could do it with a softer touch and you'll just come up with an idea that people can pursue themselves, which again, I've got examples of that I'll talk about in a minute. It's so worth encouraging fundraisers. We find that every fundraiser brings an average of 16 new donors to you as an organisation. It doesn't matter if they haven't heard of you as a charity or a community group. They are supporting their friend who's doing something. And then as a result, they found out about your cause and they are then connected to the work that you're doing as well. So it's really, really worthwhile. And obviously it doesn't take up your time. They're doing the fundraising as well. So some examples of the different things that I've talked about. This, going from left to right, this organisation, essentially they keep Snowdon clean. All the tourists come, they leave a lot of rubbish, it trashes it a lot. And so they, as an organisation, keep Snowdon clean. They then, as a fundraiser, decided to do a litter pick where they would do a challenge walking up and down a couple of different peaks, and they would do a litter pick on the way. So they're doing their work and they're doing a challenge. They combine the two and they're raising money. Great. The next one across is an addiction recovery charity. So this organisation, they came up with an idea that they had then asked people to pursue themselves. So they said to everyone that had been through their services, they said, did you know that it costs £300 to support someone in your position? Now that you're out the other side and you've been through our services, would you like to fundraise for someone else to benefit from that same service that you've benefited from? or your family member has benefited from. And they then had lots of different fundraisers, all with this £300 target, with this really tangible meaning for why they'd chosen that £300 target. And they were all then doing swimathons. And that was the example I gave, where they're each swimming a certain amount in their own local pool. And it's easy for every person to complete in their own time in their own local area. The next one across, it's a disabled theatre company. They perform all across the UK. And so someone decided to do a challenge where they were going to cycle around all of the venues that the organisation had performed in around the UK. So they're doing a cycling challenge, but they made it personal to the organisation, and made it, just really relevant and tangible there as well. And then on the right, that's just an example of an organisation that comes up with their own cycling event. They cycle to Paris every year. And so people sign up, they join the group in cycling, and that's something that the group themselves runs every year. So alongside the ongoing donation pages, the fundraising pages you might have yourself to raise towards specific targets, and then individuals who are taking on challenges to raise money for you too. Alongside all of that, you've also got monthly direct debits. So monthly donors, a lot of people see as the creme de la creme of fundraising. You know, if you can get that regular support coming through, then, you know, that's absolutely brilliant. And it just brings a huge amount of really reliable income into your organization. You know what to expect every month in terms of what you're getting. And that is something you should really always keep in mind as you're developing your fundraising, because it would typically be people who've already supported you that will become regular donors. And so really you want to plan out what is the journey of this donor to eventually become a regular donor and support us on a monthly basis. On Localgiving, they can choose to give you any amount monthly from £2 up. And it's really worth making it tangible. You know, £10 a month is the equivalent of, it's cheaper than a coffee a week, whatever it might be. We have a number of organizations as well that give their friends memberships or their sports subs or things like that as direct debits as well through Localgiving. And it's just really worth considering that along with your fundraising, because the long-term impact of that gift, if you can really make your donors and regular donors aware of what the future is that they're investing in, what the outcomes are, and what your ambitions are, then it can really help them to be part of that long-term vision as well. These are just some examples. So on the left is a food bank. So they very much let people know what it costs to feed a family for a month. So a very tangible example of what a monthly donation goes towards. This one here, they had friends memberships that were given through their Localgiving page. And this one on the right, one of the things, a number, for example, some of the boxing groups we work with might do, say, boxing classes for people in care, and then they might know that someone's monthly donation won't directly equate supporting one young person because it's too much money, and so their message might be that instead, can you give towards this, and collectively we can make it happen. So it might be a case like the food bank, you've got a really tangible thing that people can support with their monthly donation, or it might be that you're choosing a really appealing element of your existing work that those monthly donations are going towards. The best part of the monthly donations is that it's flexible income for yourself. It's not restricted. So donations to your main page, donations from fundraisers, donations from direct debits, it's unrestricted funding. It's completely flexible for you to use wherever you need. Whereas obviously, if you're crowdfunding and you're doing a fundraising page yourselves, raising £5,000 towards a specific project, the money is going towards that specific project there as well. So in terms of actions for getting started, if you're not already, please do become a Localgiving member. It's really quick and easy to sign up. If you're a registered charity, it's really quick because we pull a lot of information from the Charity Commission. If you're not registered charity, we just need a couple of extra documents from you, things like a governing document, and a couple of bits like that as well. But it's a really easy step-by-step process that you can save and come back to, or request other people to add documents to as well. Once you're signed up, in terms of first steps, obviously you have this webinar you can work through. We have a welcome pack when you sign up on our toolkit. But obviously the first step is to create your main donation page, make it really strong, like we've been talking about, and then starting to promote the link to your page. You can link it to your website. So you can add donate buttons to your website that directly link through to the page. You can do that in the Local Giving Toolkit as well. You can schedule social media, so you've got messages going out on a regular basis, sharing what you're doing. You can prepare thank you messages as well. So when a donor supports you, they get an automatic thank you from Local Giving, but you as an organisation can send a follow-up thank you message as well. And you can have a few different thank you messages saved as drafts. You've got your perfect thank you for your fundraising page you've got going at the moment. You've got your perfect thank you for a direct debit donor. All of those things you can communicate with them. And then it's just really a case of deciding what you'd like to fundraise for first. So is there something that is coming up in the near future that you know what the target could be? Do you want to encourage more fundraisers? You know, whatever it is, experiment, try every way of fundraising. There might be one way that really suits you better than others. So yeah, definitely just give them all a go, and make the most of the training that we have. We have regular webinars, we have a really good toolkit, and we have really experienced staff who can answer questions as well with our help desk, and we have a number of grant opportunities. So to talk to you a bit more about grants, we've done a number of grants over the last few years, everything from helping sports activities to helping STEM in schools to helping fuel poverty, all sorts of needs that, you know, there are many organisations across the UK that is relevant to. Our current grants, it's called the Community Matters Fund. Typically, these are larger level grants. We're working with National Grid to support organisations through themed grants. So we do a number of these grants throughout the year. The current theme that's open at the moment, and it's open to those who are registered charities and other not-for-profits. It's really supporting people to build the skills they need to get back into employment. So the focus is on helping groups that have barriers that stop them getting into employment. So that might be that they're young, they're 16 to 25, they're not in full-time education. It might be people from ethnic minority backgrounds. It might be those with health conditions or disabilities. It might be veterans. It might be ex-offenders. It might be those that are returning to work after long-term absence. It could be those who have faced domestic abuse, like a whole range of things. If you are working with people or want to work with people that, you know, could benefit from extra support to get back in employment, then that is something that this grant could cover. And examples of that could be that you want to help them with interview skills or with developing a CV, or you want to do English lessons because they're not English first language, or maths lessons, or life skills, you know, whatever it might be. You know, a fund to hire suits, a fund to get people to interviews, you know, whatever it is. So it has to be something really tangible that helps people get back into work. So it's not just talking about things that might just say strengthen them as a person. It's very specifically tangible things that get them back into employment, and how your organization might already be running something like that, or already be working with people like that. And if you've got particular skills that could help these sorts of people facing barriers to getting into employment, then this is the grant to apply for this time round. Those who are registered charities and non-profit companies, by that I mean things like social enterprises, can apply for up to £5,000. So apply for £5,000. And those who are unregistered community organisations, so things like CICs, can apply for up to £2,000. The deadline is coming up on the 12th of July. It just opened last Wednesday, so it's a shorter deadline. So really get on it if you're able to. It's just a case of either going to the link here, just basically go onto the Local Giving website. You can see the grant that's open. So if you're not already a Local Giving member, or you've just applied to a previous grant, you can go onto our website and apply. If you're a Local Giving member, or you've created a Local Giving account from a past grant, you can log in and you can go to the My Grant section and you can put in your application there as well. The nature of this grant being quite a quick turnaround means that also the aim is to get the money to people quite quickly as well. Full information is on the website, and we can take questions about that in a minute after the webinar as well. So that's the grant that's live at the moment. One other really exciting thing that's brand new is that we've been looking for a while at the different things that we can offer our members, and one of those that is now very much in the works is using AI to help people with grants and make applications as easy and swift as possible. So the idea behind it being that obviously everyone is very stretched for time. You have to create and fill in a number of very repetitive grant forms. It's very time consuming. It's a bit soul destroying when you don't get the grant as well, and you've put days of your life into it. And so we're developing an AI tool that will not only make it quicker for you to apply to our grants, but will ultimately make it quicker for you to apply to grants of other funders as well, because it will pull information to talk about your organisation, and it will essentially give you a first draft of a grant application for that particular grant. So then you've got something to work off yourself, or you've got something to say to other people in your organisation. Look, this is the basis of the application. Can you add in that section? Can you add in this section with the knowledge that you have for that particular area of work? And so the idea is just to make it less daunting and less time consuming to do grant applications as well. And then on the local giving fundraising side of things as well, it can also be used to help you improve your fundraising pages. It can automatically populate your organization's fundraising page and donation page and things like that. So it will be there to do things like support your social media as well, and suggest social media posts that you could do. It really just fits in uncomplicatedly around the things that you're already doing, just to make it as time efficient as possible. A lot of people not realize, but we really are a tech organization in that we run the online fundraising platform, and we have a lot of brilliantly tech-minded colleagues who have the ability to do these sorts of things. And so we want to really offer that to our members as well. So that's something that is coming, and something that we'll very much be talking about in the newsletter. And there will be things like really clear tutorial videos. I know things like AI seem complicated and scary and advanced, but it will be a really simple step-by-step clicking a few buttons process, just as everything is with local giving, that we will guide you through when the time is right, and you can see if that's something that can then really benefit your organization. You could be getting grant applications out, hearing back in a few months. Hopefully then you've got some funding that you wouldn't have had otherwise as well. So I'll thank you very much for tuning into the webinar today. If you have any further queries in general about local giving, particularly around signing up for memberships, or if you're a member, have a particular question, the local giving help desk is the best place to go. Or my colleague Luke, who's one of the people who's tuned in today and will be taking questions in a minute, his email there is the best to get in touch with questions that are grant specific, or about the AI tool as well that we're developing. Luke does our newsletters, so he'll be in touch with everyone who's been a local giving member or grantee as well about those things as they develop. And it will be Luke that will be sending out this webinar recording to everyone that's signed up as well. So if you were only able to tune in a little bit late today, or want to be able to pass this on to other people, that's absolutely fine. The recording will come out to you today as well. So thank you very much for listening, and have a great rest of the day as well.